This video will show you how to graph an exponential function on my math lab. So here's an example. So in this example, you want to graph the functions f and g in the same coordinate plane. And my functions in this case is f of x equals 7 to the x power, and then g of x equals 7 to the negative x power. Alright, so the first thing you have to do is we have to graph f of x equals 7 to the x first. Alright, so I'm going to click on this little part here that says click to enlarge graph. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So click to enlarge graph. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to plot a point on the graph. So remember, we're trying to graph f of x equals 7 to the x. So if x is 0, then 7 to the 0 power is 1, right? So always use 0 because your domain is all real numbers when you're dealing with exponentials. So use 0. So if x is 0, 7 to 0 is 1. So I'm going to plot the point 0, 1. Now we have to remember that this is an exponential function. So I've got to go to my palette right here and choose the correct part. So see the one right here, when I scroll over it, it says exponential tool. So click on that. All right. And now it says click the graph to plot your curve. All right. So remember we chose 0, 1, right? So you see how my cursor, I'm clicking of all these points here. So I want to plot 0, 1. So 0, 1's here. Now when I click on it, you see I have this curve, right? Okay, now be careful. That's just an exponential curve that intersects the y-axis at 1 because that was your y-intercept. So when I let x be 0, I was finding my y-intercept. So 7 to the 0 power is 1. So that's where the graph will cross the y-axis. But I'm going to ask you this. If I let x be 1, what's 7 to the first power? Well, that's 7, right? But if you look at 1, 7, 1, 7, that's here. The graph does not cross the point 1, 7. So what we have to do is go here. See where it says change the base, where it says base? Well, what's the base here? The base is 7. So I got to go here and I got to move. See how this thing is moving like this? So I got to move my base to 7. Alright, so when I move it to 7, notice it changes. So watch. See how when I'm moving my base, as I'm moving this, notice the graph. See how the graph is changing according to the base? Alright, so what's the base? The base is 7. So I got to go and do 7 here, like this. Okay? Alright, and so that is the graph of f of x. So my y-intercept is 1. The point 1, 7 is on the graph, and then I'm going to click Save. Okay? Alright, now to graph g of x equals 7 to the negative x, I'm going to go back, I'm going to click on enlarge graph. Alright, now what we have to do here is graph the other function 7 to negative x. Alright, but we have to remember the base is still 7, right? The base is still 7. If x is 0, then the exponent is 0, so 7 to 0 is still 1, correct? So my y-intercept for g of x is still 1, I'm sorry, still 0, 1. Alright, 0, 1. So I still need to graph this. I'm going to go to exponential tool. Alright, so I'm going to plot the point 0, 1, just like this, okay? Then I'm going to go right here. I'm going to change my base. Alright, so here's my base. I'm changing my base. See the blue graph is still there? The blue graph, so that's f of x. The orange is g of x. Alright, so what's the base for the orange? It is 7. So I'm going to click on that, but then I need to reflect it. See the orange is right over the blue. You see that? So look, go here. See the orange and the blue? So the blue is f of x, the orange is g of x. Alright, but remember this. Alright, so base is 7. So remember this. So now they overlap. Whenever the exponent is negative, see how the base is the same? This is x, this is negative x. The graph of g of x is a reflection of f of x about the y-axis. So I got to click on this, reflect over the y-axis. Alright, and then notice see how it looks? So there's the blue graph, there's the orange graph. I'm going to click save, and then I'm going to check the answer. And it's correct. All right, so it's a little bit complicated. My math lab does not do a very good job in this case on explaining how to graph these exponential functions. Um, but that's what you do. All right, so on your test 3 or the final exam, just make sure you go back over this video to review how to graph exponential functions using MyMathLab. All right, so that'll be the end of this video.